Thank you for dropping by. I'm Butch.
And I'm Katie.
We're soldiers, leaders, family members, and
Nerds.
We wanted to discuss with you applicable leadership tools you can take away in your ALICEPack.
This is Army Leaders Improving through Collective Experiences, or
Alice.
ALICE. Listen, we've had years of experience as Army soldiers, but some of the most important elements of that is understanding our responsibilities and our understanding of our role as a follower, as a soldier who must follow orders.
Yeah, and both of us have been in leadership positions, I would say probably a quarter of our time in the Army. I've been in over 15 years, you a couple more, I think, a few more. But I've only been a company commander for, I think, 3.5 years and a platoon leader for a year. So most of my career has been in a follower role. So that's the reasoning for this episode is we've been talking about a lot of leadership stuff, but as we will discuss in this episode, we want to discuss the followership side. And I think in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower, and there's a lot of good quotes out there from various famous leaders that said they had to learn to be a follower before they could be a great leader. So that's the focus for today's episode.
Yes, we both have responsibilities on both sides of that conversation. I have a responsibility as a follower to do these things, and I have a responsibility as a leader to do these.
Yep, it's a two-way street.
So in that same vein, what are my followership duties? I need to be ready. I need to support the team. I need to be physically ready. I need to be mentally ready. And I need to show the motivation and the full support to the organizational concepts when my leadership starts to present those items to me. When I do that, what happens? My followership gets followed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since I'm a baseball coach, the baseball metaphor is the number 8 hitter, the number 9 hitter, they have roles on the team. So even if that's your role as a follower, you have a job on the team. You have to respect it, and you have to be ready for it. So whenever your number comes up in the lineup, you got to get a hit, get on base, or move the runner. Sometimes it's a very thankless job, but in the Army, we're assigned various duties throughout our careers where we have to do the greater good for the team, for the good of the team. And that there's a lot of bonding and trust that goes in that. But that's what really drew myself to this article, this AUSA article, which we'll link on this episode, is just being ready to perform your tasks. I think a lot of leaders, the Army always preaches leadership, but followers do the work. In order to do the work well, you have to have followers who are trained and proficient in their warrior tasks and drills. That's the common saying in the Army, and you have to be physically and mentally ready whenever that leader calls upon you to do the job. So that's the important impact of followers. And I think as the younger generations, I think more power is shifting to the followers. And there's another study later on in this episode we'll discuss where the author said that I think it's 20% of the actual work is attributed to leaders. Leaders give that guidance and that overarching managerial piece, but the followers have to physically 80%. Be on ground and do it. They're the other 80%, which is why we want to talk about this, is being a good follower is just as important, if not more important, than being a good leader. So that's my 2 cents on that.
So I love that you said power, because this is what I used to call it, soldier power.
Soldier power.
Is the application of a congregate mindset. A bunch of soldiers who put their mind to a task at hand, and whether it might be the most efficient way or the most inefficient, they get it done, right? It's this mindset of, I have the mission, however we do it, we get it done. And I really, really love that about particularly the Army as a service. That's not always the case across all services, but that's why I kind of say, all right, let's just go ahead and apply some soldier power to that task at hand.
Yeah. And as I hinted at previously, was two parts I think we don't talk a lot about in the Army with followership and leadership is with followership you have to be patient. And I think the Army, we preach, much like other organizations across the country, is everybody wants to be a leader. And there's a problem with that, I think. Everyone can't be a leader. You can't have 50 leaders and no subordinates. Someone has to be the follower. And there's a lot of good information out there, a lot of good books that we'll share, and articles as well that talk about being patient, learning while you're a follower. And there's a lot of great scenes and shows. One of my favorite shows is Game of Thrones, where Jorah Mormont, the commander of the Night's Watch, he tells Jon Snow, if you want to lead one day, you have to follow, and he hands him his sword. Like, you want to be the guy, you got to learn how to be the guy first before you take the helm of leadership. And I think in the Army we have timelines, we have career timelines, certain things you have to meet. But I think a lot of people, especially junior service members, they get so anxious to take, and I was one of those people. I'll admit it. As a commander, honestly, I think most company commanders feel pretty overwhelmed and underprepared whenever you first get in that seat. I mean, it's a very overwhelming experience, and we all were taught, we're just drilled like, just wait till your company command time, wait till this, and then it finally happens, and you're overwhelmed like, geez, I wish I had another year or two to learn a little bit more, because again, as I think the Army as a whole, we preach leadership. Everyone has to be a leader. Everyone has to take that role. I don't think a lot can be done or you can't do it well whenever you have 50, 60, 100. If everyone is a leader, then no one is, essentially. Yeah. Everyone can't do it. Someone has to be the boss. The other people have to be the subordinates. Yeah, you have to follow, and there's a great team dynamic in baseball is the team captains on sports teams. There's only one or two team captains. The rest, like, you support the team captain, you do with the coach. There's only one or two coaches. You got to do with the coach how they view the intent. So I think that's two critical things. Getting back to the root point was being patient and learning while you're in those positions. As platoon leader, staff officer, there's a lot of staff officers that don't fully take advantage. Again, just diving myself out, I don't think I took full advantage of all the people that were around me and the NCOs that were around me to learn what it means to be in charge before you take the helm, and just soak it all up. Be patient. Your time will come. And if you
your time will come. Mm-hmm. I really like to punctuate that because I came in as a specialist with my degree, and of course, so I'm already kind of maybe advanced in a few more ranks than maybe some of my peers, and I'm like, wait, I have a bachelor's degree, and you want me to clean the floors?
Yeah.
I just spent almost a full year in AIT learning an engineering skill, and you want me to just shred paper? Yeah. Like, it feels insulting. It took me a little bit of time to reframe in my mind, this is what the Army needs me to do right now. They're paying you. Yeah. Thank you. They're taking care of your family. They are paying your healthcare needs, blah, 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 blah. They're doing their part. They're just asking you to hey, can you dial it down a little bit? We need you to do some of these maybe seemingly menial tasks, but trust that they are contributing to the wider effort. And that's really maybe the frame we don't always get. Maybe leaders, as part of their toolkit, can make that frame for their soldiers. Listen, I know this kind of seems like a weird thing, but I need you to move this thing to this thing. This is why. Maybe the why gives them the meaning or the greater effort in that framework. So someone understands that, yeah, okay, I just moved heavy things from one place to another thing, but I don't know why.
Yeah, and the work has to get done.
It does. Someone's got to do it. We need your effort to contribute.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of personal growth with that. And one of the stories from my life that I would like to share with the listeners is whenever I played baseball in high school, I was probably the best or second best player on my team in high school. And then whenever I played college at Furman University, I was probably in the bottom third easily, and I had to rake the field. You do all these jobs as a freshman and sophomore in college. Yeah. It's part of the growth perspective, I guess, or the thing to grow as a leader and you learn how to be a good teammate. And I think the Army does that well.
An organizational effort. Even though it seems like a menial task at this moment, yes, you just clean the floors, but guess what? Those floors are for 900 other soldiers who have to live in this building. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for caring for our community, for our environment. But it's actually a very key element. Don't think that some of those tasks are beneath you. And I think that is what our mental mindset needs to switch to when we become that followership or become a good steward of followership. Yes, now it's time for me to just do my part, whatever that may be. Filling a bag with oats or peeling potatoes, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. You know where they're coming from. Whenever soldiers, junior service members do bring you their problems as a first sergeant or company commander, you were in their shoes. And so
Facts.
Sometimes doing those things you think are beneath you, it helps you get better perspectives on these problems I think we face in the Army, and you can kind of put yourself in their shoes. So there's a lot of growth to it. But yeah, that sums up this small section.
So let's go over like 4 basic rules of followership. First, I want to hit on you're a leader in training. Learn those ins and outs of the organization. Understand what's going on. Not just what's above, but what's below. Left and right. Definitely your peers. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge your peers. And start to understand how to reduce burdens on your soldiers. How to make equivalent levels of organizational sponsorship all across your formations, and how you operate optimally in your spot.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Katie, what I thought in this Forbes article, which sparked this 4 rules of followership, talked about a good bit, was reducing the burden on the leader. Great followers do that, and I don't think we talk a lot about that in the Army, is what followers can do more to help out that leader. It always seems very leader focused, how leaders improve, but I think there's a lot to be gained from the 80% that we talked about of the work that gets done by followers. If followers can do just a little bit more, it helps that leader, and then it helps the team as a whole. So I thought that was another nice point that this article brought up, was reducing the burden on the leader. And if you do want to lead one day in your career progression as a follower, learn what's going on levels above you, below you, and to your left and right, and then you can bring that to the leader to make decisions, and it makes you look good, and it helps out the team. So I thought that was a great way to cap off this rule number 1 of you're a leader in training. So look to your left and right, up and down, and help out the leader, because one day you're going to lead, hopefully.
And on that note, the second point is put your team first, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that. It's like, I am team focused. I'm going to come up to my leader. Hey, leader, these are the things that are kind of going on. What do you think about me checking off this? Help me prioritize. How do you put your team and your collective goals front and center, while still taking care of each other, still understanding that we're humans, we're not robots and trying to execute just crazy tasks, but also getting the mission done. So, number 2, put your team first.
And my comments on that is it's obviously very difficult to look outward at what the team is doing, because you're always focused in the Army, just like any other organization. We have rating schemes, evaluations where it says your name. Yeah, it's individual. Yeah. You get evaluated individually, but also most of the time what those leaders are supposed to do when they do those ratings is evaluate how you impacted the team, which is why you should focus on the team first, because the individual is just going to flow from that. And I know it's difficult for some people to frame it that way, but that's what the Army trains us to do. Sports in my life, and I think the sports culture helps that for those soldiers that had the upbringing in a sports family. Me with baseball, just like I said before, sometimes I was the number 9 hitter, and I had to help the team that way. I wasn't the lead off or number 3, one of the best hitters. I never was the best hitter, but you have to do a job, and you have to frame putting the team first. If the team wins, I win.
Contribute.
If first platoon wins, whatever organization, team you're in the Army, a platoon, company, the company does well, you do well. And that's how you have to frame it.
That's exactly how you write awards, right? So someone says, this is an accomplishment I made. Everyone understands, or not just awards, but evaluations as well. Everyone understands that it wasn't just you alone doing all of those things. Right. Everyone understands that as a collective team, you came together to accomplish that mission. So everyone unilaterally has that accomplishment. No one thinks that I accomplished this great thing all by myself. I did it like Rambo. Pew, 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 pew. No, right? Like, no one thinks that. I would say that a lot of soldiers that I encounter have so much humility that they would never try to take credit for a thing. And I'm like, you did that thing. And they're like, no, but we were part of a team. And I was like, yeah. Just say you did the thing. We all know you did it as part of a team. Like, no one does any of this alone. That's the beauty of the organization.
Yeah. That's a good point. And then rule number 3 is believe in yourself and your leader. I think probably the most important thing of that rule is believing in your leader, even with all the bad social media stories you hear about leaders getting in trouble or whatnot. But I think taking that first step as a follower is believing in your leader, believing they have your interests in mind whenever they're making decisions. I think that is a very critical first step to being a good follower, is extending that trust. I know every person is different, where that trust may be harmed in some way, but I think it's critical for followers to have that first step of trust your leader. They're trained, they're proficient. That's why the Army put them there, and just give them benefit of the doubt. And then if there is bad behavior down the line, it'll be addressed. But I think right now there's a hesitancy to believe in our leaders.
I don't understand that at all, because I think that even as I matured as an individual, maybe when I was young and I lost a thing, I was like, someone stole my thing. Yeah. Instead of assuming like, yeah, probably more likely you just lost it, dum-dum. Right? Mm-hmm. Someone made me upset. They did it on purpose. No. Let's make an assumption. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's start at that angle. Your leader is probably thinking this is the best way to go forward. Let's start at that as our fulcrum before we start to shift one way or another, mm-hmm. thinking that, they're doing it against us. But more likely than not, I want to believe, and I want to set my standard of belief that people are attempting to do things in a good point of view. They're thinking this is the right way to go. This is best for everybody. And then maybe let's make evidence or experiences incrementally push me down versus mm-hmm. like start here and then try to push me up.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into rule number 4, which I thought was really nice. A nice way to cap off the article in Forbes was it's about what you follow, not who you follow. And I think followers, sometimes we get wrapped around the personalities of that leader and not exactly what they're saying or what their intent is. We get wrapped around a little bit more finer things that aren't really important when you look at the grand scheme of things. We need to be focused on the mission, the tasks they give us, and the intent behind those tasks. So it's not who you follow, it's what you follow, what those organizations' values are. And it kind of reminded me when I was reading it of the Band of Brothers scene where Major Winters, Captain Sobel has to salute Major Winters, and he has that comment, we salute the rank, not the man. So despite their misgivings between each other, there's still standards we have to meet in the military. And it's the same with, I would argue, with followership and leadership, is regardless of who your leader is or what personal disagreements you have with them, it's up to you to be a good follower, to follow their intent as best as you can and carry out those tasks as best as you can.
And maybe just professionally put aside some of those personal kind of conflated feelings, right? I think that's great. All right, so Robert Kelly, the author of the book Power of Followership, had 5 categories of followers. Let's talk about them. First, alienated. Independent, critical thinker, lacking in engagement due to a sense of disgruntled acquiescence.
Yeah, that's a very, very difficult one to talk about. Yeah. But these...
You don't know anybody like that?
I don't know anyone like that, yeah, but I don't know. But I think there's a lot of independent critical thinkers in the Army, so these people in those organizations are kind of deemed outcasts because, again, they get disgruntled because they're not heard, they're not well understood, and they want to contribute in some way, but they just get written off. So you have to bring them to the exemplary category, which is the last category, where you can be a constant critical thinker, but you have to be actively engaged. That's what makes that follower exemplary. That's the last category of follower that Kelly talks about. So alienated is they do the critical thinking, but they lack in engagement. They don't contribute to the team or see how they can contribute to the team.
We can give them that line of communication, right? We can get, as long as there's an avenue to do so. If it seems like there's a deadline, like, okay, well, whenever I contribute, nothing is done, I'm not valued, that's the alienation piece. That's how that happens. They don't necessarily start out like that. And if they do, the correction is a pathway of communication. Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And then just to go through to the next category was conformists. So these people are highly active in the organization but lack independent and critical thinking skills.
Nah.
In the Army, just like other organizations, you hear the term yes men, yes people, and the Army is not. I mean, it's similar to other organizations. They're not immune. Yeah, so we have yes men and women and other people in the Army. That there's no critical thinking. The organization can't really improve if there's complex problems.
Yeah.
And just being a conformist, we all know the shortcomings of that. So I don't think we need to discuss that too much further. And number 3 on categories is pragmatist. So this person straddles the middle of the road and either questions their leader too much or too little. So this is kind of I think a very fine category, probably a very small percentage of people.
It's like a politician.
Yeah, so they're not hot or cold. They're in the middle, and you can't really get a good read on them. And they either question the leader too much or too little. So there's problems with both of that. If you question them too much, there's disloyalty or the appearance of disloyalty. Too little, and there's no growth. That's my 2 cents.
I think the risk of the pragmatist is that if others see someone, if they see someone who they believe has a sort of intellectual authority to challenge a leader and they don't do it, then it kind of sets a baseline like we don't challenge things. Or if they are over aggressive, right? Okay, we also agree that you have the intellectual authority to do this. You have the sort of maybe social authority to do it, but you push the limits and now we're all embarrassed and we don't want to look at you anymore.
Yeah.
It also sets a sort of weird baseline for the rest of the organization, or maybe just smaller units like teams or levels like that.
Yeah, and just from you talking about it, Katie, is another problem with someone being a pragmatist and being middle of the road is sometimes there isn't a middle of the road solution to
Maybe
problems.
I gotta
there
commit.
is a black or white or a straight right or wrong. You have to commit to something, and these people are kind of the obstacles in the path of what the radical. I mean, you can talk on the radical transformation piece with that the chief of staff's trying to get us to be creative and innovative. And if you have a pragmatist that says, "Well, I just want to just keep along this path where we're going to stay in the middle. We're not going to make too many waves, good or bad. Just that's not what we want. We want to be a little bit more higher level of critical thinking and action." So I think the pragmatist presents those problems. And then the last of the 5 categories we'll talk about is being passive. And this person neither thinks for themselves or is an active part of the organization. So this is another big obstacle on those teams as followers. If you have passive followers, they really don't want to do anything or contribute in any way. And you have to find a way to... There's administrative actions you can take. There's disciplinary actions you can take if they actually violate any disciplinary measures. But it's tough to deal with a follower. And I think there's a term out there called toxic followership. And I think a passive person that just doesn't contribute in any meaningful way that fits the bill. And it's a very tough position for a leader to deal with them, but you have to find a way to deal with those people. Either sometimes they need to be transferred to another unit, or sometimes there's disciplinary actions that you have to administer and retrain them. But passive, I think passive and maybe alienated are the 2 most dangerous categories of these, because the alienated person is very intelligent. They're a critical thinker. They're just not engaging. So I think that's dangerous because you have a very intelligent person that could use it for malicious ways if they're not engaged, if they don't feel like a member of the team. And then the passive person just doesn't want to do anything. You just got to move them in the right direction, and that's probably the most difficult thing to do.
And I think that in my Battle Buddy's article, Read Your Disc, he called it like some sort of like an aggressive follower, where it's basically someone who just takes initiative, who sees the mission, they understand what that leader has set forth, and they just aggressively attack whatever is in front of them. That's the literal opposite of my passive. I'm not going to do anything until you tell me to do it. Right? I feel like that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to sit here, and then if you didn't tell me to do it, then I'm just going to say, well, you didn't tell me to do that thing.
Mm-hmm. Even though there's a lot of, we preach initiative and
I might
common
have
sense.
seen that thing could be done, but meh. That is a... that's different, though, than someone... I will give this kind of like caveat. It's different than someone who just never really realized or didn't make the connection, like, you know what? That is a really great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it. Thanks for pointing it out. Now I'll do the thing. That's different, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, I think like I want to like do. inch back to let's be nice and assume that people are trying to do the best that they can. Let's not assume that they are the passive, like
malicious.
You didn't tell me to do the thing, bro. Right? Let's not assume that. Let's assume that they just didn't. Maybe they didn't make the connection.
Just
right?
Didn't know. Which is an easy fix if they didn't know.
Agreed. And then you just slot them into different categories of these followers, right? Mm-hmm. But the best elitist category is the exemplary number 5.
Yep, and again, the exemplary follower is a constant critical thinker and actively engaged. So that person is always thinking about what the leader wants and is actively engaged in making that happen, accomplishing those tasks. That is a good follower. And that sums up the 5 categories espoused by Robert Kelly in his book, which is a good book. We'll link it on this episode, but check it out.
So let's go into the trenches here and say, what makes a bad follower? Well, my battle buddy, Sergeant Major Disc, has like a top 4. Engagement in illegal, immoral, unethical behavior. Yes, don't do that.
Yep,
please don't do
sense,
Don't be that, bro. Failure to join the team you're on. Don't publicize your bad behavior socially on social media. Maybe let's not do that. And then, of course, don't allow your personal disagreements to be a seed of resentment within your unit, which leads to disloyalty. Don't let that path begin with you. Do you want to recover or review any of these?
Yeah, number 2 that you said, the failure to join the team you're on, something that's been a common saying is back at brag or whatever unit. It's called a different name now. It's Fort Liberty, but it's common in the Army, in the military in general, that whenever you PCS somewhere, you continue the habits of that old unit.
The mentality.
And you talk the mentality of that old unit and all the structures and norms that they had. And you say, okay, well, back at this place, we did it this way. And you try and really get after that new team. And that new team has that you're on, that team has its own norms, and you're kind of infringing on that. And you talk down to them like, oh, well, back at... So in artillery world, I remember at Fort Bliss, we had a lot of people in the 82nd Airborne who would come in, and we were a heavy unit, and 82nd is a light unit. So light artillery versus heavy artillery, totally different mindset. And they would say, well, they would say back at Bragg, that's what was named back then. Back at Bragg, we did this. Like, that's cool, man. But we're heavy artillery. This is our standing operating procedures, our SOPs here. And that kind of mentality, you just really flush it whenever you're at a new duty station, you're part of a new team, get used to how that leader does business, and try and assimilate the best way that you can. The Army trains us how to do this because we get rotated out throughout our entire career so many times. It's just listen, take in the environment, and it's not productive. Ultimately, it's not productive to say, oh, well, back at this, it doesn't matter what you did back at that place. You're not there anymore. That's kind of a direct way to handle that, but I think it's on the follower to really embrace that new team identity as they're on a new team.
I think as part of our pack right now, let's think about some of those trigger statements that might put you into that caution view. Like, okay, I need to be aware that maybe this is not exactly correct. We've always done it this way.
Yep.
Well, back at my old school...
old DP station.
Those types of statements indicate some sort of trudgery where we have gotten stuck in a potentially not relevant operation, processes, whatever that might be. It's always been there. It's always done that. That's your cue right there. That's your mental trigger.
Yeah.
Let's review that statement. Let's review why we are operating in that way. That might be your trigger to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you have to catch yourself from those. I think those are thinking traps based on our MRT.
Right,
our
that.
You think this certain way, but whenever you join a new team, you have to develop new ways of thinking. That's just something you have to catch yourself whenever you jump into those traps. And then number 3 and 4. Number 3, the social media piece that you touched on. It's very common now, just with the prevalence of social media, to air out your dirty laundry, the unit's dirty laundry. And I would advise there's some problems where you do that, but after you exhaust the chain of command and all the proper measures have been exhausted, and just having been a company commander, having experience sometimes whenever social media gets out of hand and not all the facts are shared on those social media, because again they're trying to get a certain response from it, they're kind of skewed. And there's biases and stuff like that. But please, as a follower, before you air dirty laundry, just talk to your chain of command, because I'm sure there's a better solution than doing that. And it makes the military look bad. Honestly, that's how I see it. But again, if all those ways to solve that problem have been exhausted, then social media, okay, you have a voice just like everyone does.
Yes.
But yeah, it's bad followers use that as a first resort. Okay, well, this happened to me. My leader is bad, and then just blurt it out on social media, and that leader's reputation just goes down the toilet. But
undermines everything, and that's that last bit, like undermining, leading to disloyalty, seeding resentment. And anecdotally, I will say that I didn't have soldiers that went online blasting blah blah blah, but I did have maybe spouses that didn't understand the entire structures and their honestly the advantages that they have to them, available to them, going through like Facebook, like, oh, we don't have any money, and we're like, yeah, we have tons, you just didn't, you never asked. We didn't know, bruh. Right? But that undermining, I think it kind of gets down, all of it gets down to the root of undermining the authority of someone who we have already established we want to assume has your best interest in mind. And we need to do our part to support the organization as a whole. Yeah, and use the proper mechanisms. I think Sergeant Major Disk in his article says there's a fine line between the statement disagreement does not equal disloyalty. But there's a point where the disagreement reaches such a gross level, such a high level, that it becomes disloyalty because you're doing it in public in all these meetings. No sir or ma'am or whatever that person's title is. That's a bad idea. It's going to get soldiers hurt or killed, and you just keep blasting it and disagreeing in such public forums, and it becomes disloyalty. It becomes such a detriment to the organization, and your friend really highlighted that well and explained it well in his article. It should be the absolute last resort. Yep.
Support veteran-owned businesses, just like Leah Oak Boutique. Check out this site, and you can also use our discount code as we put in the description below. Awesome.
Okay, here they are. Takeaways for our ALICEPack.
Boop, 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 boop. Number 1, be ready, physically, mentally, technical in your job. So be proficient in your jobs as followers. I think that's probably number 1 thing to take away from today is to be a good follower. You have to be ready to go. Whenever that leader gives you a task, you got to be ready to go. And that's something always sticks with me is whenever I do my personal fitness, whenever I do anything job related, my leader is counting on me to get the job done. People are counting on me, and to be a good follower, you have to be ready whenever that time comes. So I think that's
it could be literally immediate. It could be someone just saying, "Call 911 now," and you just do it. Yep. You just react. That could be it.
And that's what makes the Army successful, is we have a bunch of followers who are ready to go. So keep on doing that. And then
Now you also need to think about. I mean, I think it gets you ready for that sort of reaction as well. Is what is your boss thinking? What is 2 levels above you thinking? Mm-hmm. That is a mentality that all NCOs have had. I need to perform not just at my duty station, but 2 levels above me. What is your boss thinking?
Right, and that's a skill you can practice. I know as a staff officer, whenever you read operations orders, a platoon leader can read a battalion level operations order and understand it well enough, and so can any NCO, I would argue. So there's no reason why you can't understand what's going on 2 levels above you. What are your left and right units doing? What options can you present the commander to help your team? And that's what another one is being a team player, is really reframing your mindset to be less about me, more about we, more about the team. And that's another thing to take away in your ALICEPack. One thing that kind of stuck out to me with all these articles, it said, I think it was your friend's article, Sergeant Major Diss said, don't manage a task to failure.
No.
Sometimes you get stuck in the ruts as a follower, as you're afraid to ask for help, and there's plenty of other followers who are willing to help. So I thought that was a nice point. Yeah, we've been there, done that. We have the experience. And sometimes you feel like a bad follower if you're asking for a leader to clarify their guidance. Like, hey, boss, maybe I didn't understand this fully, but ask for help, and then that leader can get you other followers to help. I mean, it's a common sense thing, but I think some followers feel bad to go back to their leaders asking for assistance or clarification on things. That's unfortunate, but I thought that was a great point.
Agreed. And in a weird way, it kind of trains your leader how you need to be followed. Or whatnot, right? Hey, leader, this is how I operate. I operate best if you give me these types of clear instructions. So as you give that feedback, they know, okay, now the next time I give them a task, I need to make sure that I give them these types of points, because that will lead to our mission success collectively.
And then
then of course, then when they do it, what do?
You reward them.
High five!
Yeah, you high five them.
Whoa!
You give them a nice reward, and I think there's a lot of rewards are for leaders. It's, you see the awards process in the military, and even Hollywood does this. You see Bronze Stars for leaders. You see all the Valorous Awards for leaders.
I throw it across the line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All of them get it.
Yeah,
because it is a team effort.
Yeah, it's a team effort, and
I didn't do that alone.
Yeah, we have to get better at. And I think that's how you encourage good followership, is we reward followers. This person was a good follower. They challenged me respectfully. They presented options to me. They asked for help whenever they needed it. That's something that should be encouraged. And I think those of you that are in leadership positions on this podcast listening to us is find a way to reward your followers. Because again, with most behaviors, you have to reward what you want to see carried.
Yeah, that's
forward.
how you value it. That's how you. It's Pavlov's dog, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that's how we're
I
wired.
hate to I hate to push it down to that level, but it really is let's value what we value. I value that you gave me feedback. Thank you. I'm gonna put some emphasis that maybe on your evaluation. I'm going to make sure that your award indicates that you had this huge impact on our achievement. I'm going to say that you are respectful and you share your wisdom. At that last point, respectfully challenging your leaders.
Yep.
That's wisdom sharing. Hello.
Which helps the team. And
yes.
Again,
collectively,
I think it all
makes
circles
us
back
all
to
better.
Followers have to contribute so the leaders can excel and the team can excel. And I thought this was just
leaders are nothing.
Just to wrap it up, Katie. Just great episode. I just wanted to switch the topics around. We've been very leadership heavy throughout, just because again the title of this podcast is ALICE. It's Army Leaders, but we want to talk about followers and their roles. And to sum it up, the 80% of the work that followers do, be appreciative of it, clarify the roles, understand your roles as followers. So whenever it's your time to lead, you can lead and lead well. But thanks for attending. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate all your support these past few weeks. Our views have gone up substantially, so we appreciate that. And thanks for joining us.
Submit your comments so we get better and everyone gets better.
Yeah. But take care. We'll see you.
Nope.
Oh, we're doing the merge. Bitch. Dragon Ball Z coming at you.